Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast. It is Thursday, November 9th, and man, this week's been a bit better than the previous few. Anyone who says that we like it when there's strife and losing and controversy and coaches clapping back at fans, that's simply not true. It's just much easier with just about every element of the job when they're coming off a big win and a crucial win. Paul Strelo and I at Tiger Illustrated are covering every facet of this team, this program, as it tries to improve to 6-4 on Saturday versus Georgia Tech. My good friends Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold have been part of the podcast since the beginning, way back in August of 2018. They have an accomplished team of personal injury attorneys at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold based in Greenville. They are Clemson people, and their skillful attorneys have decades of experience in complicated litigation matters, taking a special interest in medical malpractice, nursing home abuse and neglect, car accident cases that have left the individuals involved in serious trouble. For a free consultation at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, call 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com. That's PARHAM law.com. When you're ready for a complete renovation in your home or business, open the door to more with Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Their local experienced team will totally transform any room space, from beautiful floor coverings to construction to finished details. Harris handles every step of your renovation process, whether it's a kitchen or living room or an industrial or educational setting, like some of the positively stunning work they've done at Clemson University. Go to discoverharris.com and experience a total renovation transformation from Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Want to share a quick word about Founders Federal Credit Union? If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership, as well as IPTAY members. Its office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. Okay, loved this interview with Todd Summers, going deep into his process, how he does his job. So many fascinating elements to it. Good stuff. Here we go. Enjoy. All right, joined by Todd Summers, the WSPA longtime award-winning sportscaster, and I think a frequent listener to this podcast. So I'm flattered. Thank you.
That is correct. You do a great job, Larry. We appreciate it, and excited to be on it after hearing so many great guests over the years.
I'm a little intimidated because I type for a living. You speak for a living, and I'm a bit of an amateur at the speaking thing, the public speaking thing. So if I sound nervous, then that explains it.
Oh, it's all right.
Todd, I just now. About 2 minutes before I called you, I pulled up for the first time, I saw the Dabo watching the tribute video from his former coaches and I guess some current players and staff, but former Brent Venables, James Skalski, etc. And man, that was awesome seeing him see that. I guess that was right after the press conference. After the Notre Dame game, he went into another room in the West End Zone facility, and that's where he tapes his TV show, his weekly TV show, and you are behind the scenes on that. So I'm really glad we're talking, so we can talk about that. Well, that was really cool, really well done by Clemson, but you were sort of a fly on the wall, too, for that whole thing. So what was it like for you?
Well, it was pretty cool. Truth be told, the video had been sitting on my laptop for 3 weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
We had it ready to go in Miami. We had it ready to go in Raleigh. And we had it ready to go in Clemson. So I guess the blessing in disguise was that he got to see it at Clemson, and his family was there. His kids were kind of in the background. And of all people in the background was John Olerud, the baseball player. His daughter goes to Clemson. So he was in the room. His mom was in the room. So it was really cool. We wanted to make sure it was a surprise. So we did everything kind of as we normally do for the coaches show, where we show them the first half highlights, and then we show them the second half highlights. And then usually he takes his mic off and walks away. And we're like, whoa, just don't take it off real quick. We want to show you something real quick. So I had it queued up and ready to go, and we hit play on that. And probably within, 5-10 seconds, you could tell he was kind of humbled and enjoying it. And once he got to Gene Stallings. You could kind of tell the emotions were pretty strong. And by the time it was done, he was barely able to talk. He was kind of so emotional and, thanked us for doing it. And it meant a lot to him. You could tell that, just for what he'd been through in the last couple of weeks and the journey that his whole story as a whole has, it's always neat to see the people that you've touched along the way and their appreciation. And he had, guys on that video from early on, guys from the middle, guys from the current team, former coaches on his staff. And it was really, really cool to just see him, moved the way he was, to see all those guys, certainly Gene Stallings too, kind of congratulate him for the accomplishment of becoming the school's all-time winningest coach.
Coach Swinney.
Coach, Hunter Renfro here.
Coach Swinney.
What's up, Coach?
What's up, Coach Swinney? It's Skowski.
Yo, what's up, Coach? It's Grady.
Congrats, Coach Swinney, on becoming the winningest coach in Clemson football history.
166 wins, all-time record. That's amazing, Coach.
And to have done it in less than 16 full seasons is just extraordinary.
Not bad for a D-plus hire, if you ask me. Love you, big dog.
That's a big compliment to you, your players, and the staff. Also, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on the sideline with you with all of these victories.
It all started with that sign. You said believe, and we did, and so many classes after us.
And for you to take the program to the level that it's at, nobody's more deserving.
There's nobody more deserving. I cannot thank you enough for all you've done for me personally, the foundation that you've set. I can't see a way that it's not successful in the future for a long time.
Dad, congratulations.
Congratulations on becoming the winningest coach in the history of Clemson football.
Just unbelievable. I mean, only God can write that story. You've earned everything that you've gotten.
And most of all, you have now turned Clemson into the model program in college football by doing things the right way.
You have this unique ability to get the most out of people. You're built on all the right stuff.
I mean, you live that best as the standard to the T.
Integrity is never taken for granted with you, and you always make sure things are done correctly, and you've just really helped a lot of people grow.
Dabo, what a joy it is to congratulate you on being the winningest coach at Clemson in a short period of time. You're an outstanding example for all those that's in the coaching profession. Your win-loss record speaks for itself. But the way you handle yourself is extremely important and impressive.
There's a saying that a good coach can win a game and a great coach can change a life. And I am in a long line of former players and coaches that you've genuinely changed and enriched our lives.
Just been not even just a coach, but just has been that father figure that you look for in regards to just not even caring about football, but caring about you as a man.
And I wouldn't be where I am without you. I'm so grateful for you. You're one of the best to ever do it, one of the best coaches I've ever had.
So much gratitude for what you have meant to me, not only on the football field, but on a personal level. Thanks for always believing in me, always believing in you.
We appreciate everything you do for the program. Appreciate everything you did for me. Keep winning, keep changing lives, and keep being great.
You've built a special place and wish you nothing but the best.
Many, many, many more to come. Congrats to you, Coach. We love you. Now we're going to keep fighting to get you many more.
I wouldn't want to have another person in the entire world as our head coach. Congratulations. Go Tigers.
Congratulations, and thank you for making an impact on college football that is it's going to last a lifetime. You're the best.
You're a special coach, you're a special man, you've had belief the whole way, and this brought you here. So congratulations, and like you always say, the best is yet to come.
Amen.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Make it much better for all of us.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And so you said this was after he finished the normal duties for the coaches show, for the TV show?
Yeah. Just so you know the operation of how it all works, he usually meets with the team after the game. If it's a win, they dance, and you know how it is. They take a little while in the locker room, and then he'll come upstairs, already showered at that point. He'll do the press conference, which is usually about 30 minutes. And after that press conference, he walks right out the door, straight into a door where we are, and we put the mic on him, and he starts going. Usually the whole process of taping the coaches show takes less than 15 minutes.
Really?
We've got it down to a pretty good science. So it's an interesting story as to how it all kind of comes together, because there's three of us that, do a lot of the heavy lifting on it. Pete Yanity sits back at the station and kind of puts it all together, like takes the different segments and edits them all together and, makes it all work out. And then John Burton's the producer of the show, and he's the one who, rolls the feeds on the game itself and then shoots the interview with Dabo and Don, and he kind of keeps them on track time-wise there. And I'm the one who, from the start of the game to the end of that coach's show, I really don't have 15 seconds of free time, just because, once the game starts, I'm on the sidelines. You've probably seen me down there with my big 20-pound camera. I'll shoot every play of the game. And as the game plays out, any play that's, an offensive play of probably between, anything more than 5 yards, I'll jot down on my phone. And then any defensive play that's notable, a sack, a tackle for loss, an interception, a fumble recovery. This past week, interestingly enough, I wrote down Aiden Swanson's name 3 or 4 times just because he played a part in the game. So by the time I get done with the game, I'll have probably 30 to 40 notes written down, and I've got to do it that way because at halftime, I'll literally run into the media room where we work downstairs, the one in the west end zone, and frantically edit. Halftime's 20 minutes long, and I need 19 minutes and 59 seconds to do what I got to do. And I'll edit the first half highlights somewhere in the ballpark of 3.5 to 4 minutes. By the time I get that done, I'll quickly edit a couple shots for our TV newscast, Channel 7. And by the time that's done, I'm walking out and foot is hitting ball, and they're starting the second half, and I repeat the process. Same thing, shoot the second half, come back in, frantically edit the second half highlights, and get those done. That's about, again, another 3.5, 4 minutes of plays. Now, back 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, it was a little easier to find exciting plays because, they were getting 500 yards a game and scoring, 50 points a lot of times. But, you kind of just know the flow of the game, what's going to make the highlights and what's not going to make the highlights and that kind of thing. So when it's all said and done, it's about between 7.5 and 8 minutes of highlights. Once those edited highlights are done, I'll probably have maybe a minute or two, and that's when the players come into the room, which thankfully now is right beside where I edit. I mean, it might be 5 steps to where we go in, and then we'll talk to usually 4, sometimes it's 5 players, and I'll edit down those players, Cade Klubnik, Will Shipley, Jeremiah Trotter, and Barrett Carter. Let's say those are the 4. I'll take that, edit it down to about 45 to 50 seconds, and then that'll be where Don says, after the second half highlights, now let's go into the locker room brought to you by, and then that'll be something that I've already got edited. So that's done. And then after I get the edited highlights done, I'll go upstairs and make sure that Dabo is as efficient as he can possibly be. When he gets done with that press conference, everything is ready to go. Like, he doesn't have to wait on us at all. And at home, it's pretty easy. On the road, sometimes it's a little challenging because the windows are smaller. And for the long road trips, Notre Dame, Miami, Boston College, Syracuse, we'll fly with the team. A lot of times. Not every time, but sometimes we fly with the team. So Dabo gets done, he takes the microphone off, and he walks to the bus. Well, we've got to take a tripod down, a camera down. I got to shut down the editor. I got to pack this stuff up so that it can be put onto a plane. And like, I remember at Notre Dame last year, John was sick and he didn't go. And we were like, I was literally running to the bus because I didn't want the bus to leave me. And, but again, the goal was to make it as efficient as possible for Dabo so that, he can do what he needs to do and we're not, slowing him down. And one year, it was a funny story. I was kind of keep going on. We were in Tallahassee, and same thing. The situation played out, and we're running to the truck, and we're hurrying. I'm thinking, oh, I hope they don't leave me. Oh, I hope I don't leave me. We passed Dabo. Dabo had stopped, was talking with fans, was signing autographs. I'm thinking he's in this big hurry, and he's, being Dabo, which is, a very personable and easygoing guy. And so we made it. So far, the bus hasn't left us, so that's a good thing.
Todd, listening to your game day routine, I'm exhausted, first of all. Also,
it can be exhausting.
I'm embarrassed because my game day routine, I'm going to share it with you, and I think you're going to be ready to physically assault me after I share it with you. It's work. It's a job, but my routine is stroll in usually 2 hours before the game so I can see some of the pregame warm-ups and maybe get a bite to eat. Go to press row, pull my computer out, set it up, and maybe watch another game, eat a cookie, eat a brownie. During the game, I'm sitting there watching the game while also watching it on my computer and listening on my AirPods to the broadcast, to the TV broadcast. So, if there's a good analyst that, I'm able to learn something from that. I don't have to write anything during the game. I'll pop in on our message board at Tiger Illustrated and take part in the conversation every now and then. Halftime, go eat again.
Now, in fairness, I'll eat before the game.
I'm just saying. It's a leisurely.
I don't get to do, but yeah,
it's like it sounds like a vacation compared to your routine. So after the game, since they take so long on the field, the gathering at the Paul and all that, and since Dabo takes so long in the locker room, and since Dabo takes so long taking a shower and all that, I can sit there immediately after the game and spend about a half hour writing my immediate column from the game, then leisurely pack my stuff up and leisurely stroll down to the big meeting room where Dabo has his press conference. I usually don't go to the player interviews, mainly because we have an intern who does that, and also it's just such a kind of a mess because there's so many people. It's just like a logjam of people in there. I usually figure it's not really worth my time, so I leisurely stroll into the main meeting room where Dabo is going to be, knowing that it's going to be at least another half hour before he comes in. And so then I'd leisurely write what I have to write for the Sunday morning the Sunday morning article. Finish that, and then probably wait another 15 minutes or so for Dabo to show up, watching games on my computer. Then Dabo shows up, sit there and you take part in the banter, with his press conference for about a half hour usually. And then I stroll out and then maybe go hang out with a friend at a tailgate and crack a beer. And then when I'm ready to go home, I'll go home. So yeah, I'm glad that we're not in person because you'd probably punch me by now.
Everybody has different roles on game day. I left out the part that as soon as we get done with the Dabo coaches show, then I have, we'll turn my attention to getting something ready for the news. So I'll put together a story on the news from the game, and then I have to walk back out to the stadium and do a little on-camera thing. And that I can't do that when we fly with the team. There's just not time. But if it's home. If it's at home or it's a game where we'll drive to Atlanta, we'll drive to Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Durham, those ones, then I'll stay after and do my little on-camera thing and send that back. But, I look at it like my Saturdays are very busy. They're very, every minute is accounted for. But at the same time, I'm at a football game on the sidelines, experiencing the crowd, experiencing the cheer, experiencing the touchdowns, the whole process. From field level. Are you kidding me? There are people that would pay thousands of dollars to do that. So that's pretty cool. My wife's a school teacher. So, she's used to be in kindergarten and first grade. Now she's moved over to an ESOL job that's a little less hectic and crazy. But she comes home and she'll tell me stories about kindergartners and first graders and the things that they do. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to a football game, man. This isn't work compared to, what the teachers of the world, the, doctors of the world, the people that are, fixing roads. Those are the people that are working for a living. So I try to keep it in perspective in the sense that, this, think of the places we've gotten to go because of Clemson football.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten to go to Tampa. I've gotten to go to Phoenix a couple times. I've gotten to go to Santa Clara. I've gotten to go to Orlando, Miami, Notre Dame. It's like, and if they switch out of the ACC and go into another league, you're going to get some new schools and some new road venues. And, of all the things that I do, because once football season ends, it kind of settles back down. And there was a funny tweet I sent out many, many years ago. We were covering the national championship in Santa Clara, came back the next day, and I was shooting a Wren girls basketball game. So it's like national championship, Wren girls basketball. So it's like, keep it in perspective a little bit. There's highs and lows and all that stuff. But that's what I enjoy about my job, is that I get to do a little bit of everything. If I had to cover football, if for some reason football was 365, it would physically and mentally wear me out. Like I couldn't do it. But from, you know how it is, August to December, maybe it's into mid-January, depending on how the season goes, you're jacked up and ready to go. But when it ends, when it's over, you can kind of exhale a little bit. And you're like, whew. And then, you go into basketball mode, but basketball mode's not quite the same as football mode is. And then you kind of get it cranked up for basketball mode. And then once basketball season's over, you kind of exhale there too. And then you go into baseball mode. Each one's kind of, maybe I don't hate to say it's like a step down, but it's like it's a little less taxing on me, So that's the fun part. And with basketball, I get the flexibility of, we cover Wofford, we cover Furman, we cover Clemson, USC Upstate too, and some schools. So I've gotten to go to the NCAA tournament with Furman last year. I got to go down to Orlando. I got to go to the NCAA tournament, I think 4 of the 5 times Wofford got to go. I got to go with them. When Clemson went out to San Diego, I got to go with them. So, there's highs and lows, there's peaks and valleys. I've gotten to go to the College World Series several times. It's been a while. But I went there to cover Clemson. I've gone there to cover South Carolina. I was there when they won their second national championship. So it's I think I like the fact that there's the highs, there's the 18-hour days, and then there's times in the summer where I might work 4 hours. It doesn't balance out. It doesn't equal 40 at the end of the day per week, but you find places that you slow down a little bit and catch your breath, and spend time with your family and that kind of stuff. But I really thoroughly enjoy what I do. It's
just kind of remarkable to me that we both, wear the same media passes or whatever. We're sitting 5 feet away from each other in a press conference, but yet you have these 2 different jobs that could not be more different, right? Like, we're with your duties versus a writer. There's just could not be more different in the routines and the process and all that.
You've got to know a little bit more details. You've got to be able to go a lot more in depth on things than I do. Mine's kind of just surface level most of the time. And you're one of the best there is on the beat for breaking stories and having the contacts and the sources. And, that requires time and effort. And that requires a lot of work. And I'd sit from a distance and admire, when you'll sit there and put out a note that, I didn't realize that was, I didn't know that, Will Shipley wasn't practicing, or Kate Klubnik wasn't practicing, or this guy's going to be out this week. And, so I'm not as in tune with all that. Like, everybody's got different little roles and places that they do things. And I respect what you do tremendously. I respect what Phil Kornblut does. Phil Kornblut goes to, games all the time, and, everybody does it a little bit differently, and everybody does it their own way. And I think that's what makes it entertaining. And I like to pick and, find things from different people that I like. And same thing with TV people. It's like certain people are better at certain things. And, you kind of take a little bit from everybody, and somewhere in there you find your style and your own way and that kind of thing. So that's always been my approach, is that I don't ever look at, I'm doing way more than that person's doing. Sure. Oh my goodness gracious, but because there's 50 people that are doing, way more than I'm doing. And that's kind of always a hard way to look at it, is because you're just never going to be satisfied with what you are or what the other person's doing and that kind of stuff.
You said with the coaches show, y'all got it to where it takes 15 minutes, you said?
It might not even be that some days, but yeah, somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes.
Dabo Swinney does not he's not known for his brevity. He'll have 9-minute opening statements that are longer than Nick Saban's and Kirby Smart's entire press conferences. Did it take some training, or is it just a routine thing where he understands, hey, we got to keep that answer short when you're talking about that long run by Maffa? I guess he just totally he gets it because he's ready to get the hell out of there anyway, and so he wants to get it done as quickly as possible, just as much as anybody.
Well, it's driven by the highlights.
Yeah.
So he's looking at the highlights, and we've got a little formula. I've just kind of come up with a way. I think he's got the rhythm of how it works. So let's say they have an 85-yard scoring drive. I'll show a 10-yard catch from Brenningstool, an 8-yard run from Maffa, a 15-yard pass to Bo Collins, and it's capped off with a 25-yard touchdown run by Will Shipley. And then the touchdown run is going to get a replay, and then we're moving on to the defense. On defense, Jeremiah Trotter comes up with a nice sack, and then that forces them to punt. Clemson gets the ball back. Klubnik leads them, 50 yards. They can't punch it in. So he's driven by the highlights. So if he starts to go on a tangent, which he does from time to time, the next highlight's already started.
Yeah.
So if he gets too far behind, and sometimes he'll skip a highlight because he wants to make sure he gets that nugget in on Dominique Thomas, or he wants to make sure he gets that nugget in on, Aiden Swanson or whoever it is. Maybe doesn't get as much time. He wanted to drop in the note this week on Kylan Griffin that he wasn't even expected to play because he saw that interception. And by the time he kind of gets the story going, the next highlight's up. So he's got to move on to the next thing. Maybe they should do that with his press conferences. Have video in the back that kind of drives the bus and speeds it along. So the highlights are 3.5, 4 minutes. And if he wants to stay on the highlights, he's kind of got to finish up that thought, within 10 to 15 seconds per thought. So we've, like I said, the first year I wasn't sure exactly how we were going to do it, if he wanted to see the highlights first and then play them through a second time, but it's always the first time. He always does it on the first take, and it's amazing. It's just amazing his ability to recall the game and take you into his headset at that moment and that play, and he remembers that play. I mean, I could get done with a game, and you could ask me about a specific play that, wasn't a touchdown or wasn't an amazing play, and I might not remember what quarter it was in. I might not remember who did it. He remembers all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like his recall, and his recall is unbelievable. And Pete Hannity's the same way. His recall of games and situations and plays, and that's a skill I don't have it like they have it, and that's what makes it interesting. I think for the viewers, that Dabo's ability to just recall it and go and recall it and add a little perspective, and maybe it was I did the Wofford coaches show many years ago, and they really didn't want to show on the other team. Like they wanted, if Wofford won 45-0 or 45-42, they wanted to see all 45 points for Wofford and none from the other team. And sometimes it was challenging when Wofford lost 35-3, but for Clemson, he's never once commented on, don't show that, don't show that, don't show this. And it's like, I think if you're watching the coaches show, you want to see what he says when Phil Maffa fumbles the football at the end of the game. You want to hear what he says when Klubnik throws the ball out to Adam Randall when it was supposed to be a handoff, or Klubnik in Miami, and so I put those plays in there because I want to hear what he says. And more often than not, he's like, this was the most frustrating part. This was the most frustrating part of the game. He's not supposed to keep that right there. He's supposed to hand that off. He knows that. So that was disappointing. So I try not to, I won't, if Notre Dame goes on a 15-play drive, I won't show, 7 plays. I'll show just the touchdown, unless there's a play in there that's, overwhelmingly interesting. So over the course of 7 minutes of highlights, you might see 4 or 5 from the other team, but you'll also see a Klubnik interception. You'll also see a fumble, because I think it's interesting. I think it's compelling. Last week there was a play where Xavier Thomas batted down a ball that if he didn't bat down that ball, the receiver was open.
Yep.
That was going to be a touchdown. And I said, you know what? I normally wouldn't show a pass deflection in the highlights, but I know that was going to be a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I want to see if he says that. And he's like, that was a huge play. It was 3rd down. XT bats the ball down, and truth be told, if he didn't, that guy was taking it to the end zone. And I was like, his ability to just remember the plays as they were happening is fascinating. It's always been fascinating to me. And he's such a, he's such an easy guy to cover, even when they lose, even when they don't win and he comes in there. He's not jumping around excited, but he's not grumpy and mean and snappy. He's never been that. When they went up to Syracuse and lost several years ago, I was almost surprised how he came in there, with a positive attitude. And, we got what we deserve. This is what, you play like that, you're not going to win. And, it's just refreshing because I know there are coaches that if they had to come in and do a coach's show after a loss, a crushing loss, they might take it out on the people that are in that room. And he's never done that. He's always been respectful. And let me share a funny story since I know we have the time to do it. So last year we're down there in Miami, and whenever we go on the road, I'm wearing two hats. I work for Channel 7. I've got to turn stories and content for Channel 7, and I do stuff for the coach's show on the game day and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a tricky hat to wear at times. But anyway, we're down there in Miami. It's
for the Orange
beach
Bowl.
day. For the Orange Bowl. Yeah. It's beach day. The players are out on the beach playing volleyball, jumping in the water. I'm getting video, and our media window is over basically because I think we had like maybe an hour to get video. And it's always those kind of things that I think it's cool to see players outside of helmets and shoulder pads and, that they're real humans and are allowed to have fun and do stuff. So, I thought that was an important part of the story to tell when we went to the bowl game. So I'm out there getting the video, and then I go back, sit down, edit a couple stories, and I'm getting ready to do our live shot for Channel 7. And I was like, well, we might as well do it right here on the beach. Like, why would we go somewhere else and do it when we can stand here on the beach and, make all the people back in the upstate jealous that, we're sitting in Miami in, 80-degree weather in January. But so we're sitting there getting ready to do our live shot, and they were I don't know if you went down there and went to where their team hotel was, but they were in a very, very fancy hotel, and they basically claimed that part of the beach. Like, you couldn't just walk up and down that part of the beach. So we're standing there getting ready to do our live shot. We're probably 15 minutes away. And the hotel security comes up to me, and he's like, who told you could be here? And I said, we're with the team. We were part of the team function where they were out here today for beach day. And I've got, a release that says that, we were allowed to cover this. And he's like, did you run it through the hotel security? I'm like, no, I was told through Clemson that we were fine to come out and show them at the beach. He's like, well, no one ran it by us. And I'm going to have, unless you've got something from somebody from Clemson to tell you that you're allowed to be here, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Jeez. I said, I've got this letter. I've got this note that from Ross Taylor that says that it's a media event. And he said, I got to be able to talk to the person. Anybody could have gotten that email. I was like, okay. So I'm looking around for Ross Taylor. He's not out there. He's already left. All right, well, maybe I can find Brian Hennessy. Nope, I'm looking around. Don't see Brian Hennessy either. I'm like, maybe I can see Jeff Callan. Is Jeff Callan around? Nope, don't see Jeff Callan. So I'm walking. The security guards walk with me, basically getting ready to tell us that we got to leave. I'm walking along. I see Coach Swinney. I looked at the security guy, and I said, would Dabo Swinney be sufficient? He said, yeah, that'd be fine. So I walk up to Coach Swinney. I said, Coach, can you vouch for me that, we're allowed to be here, that everything's fine, that we're not like spying on you or anything? He goes, oh, yeah. He says, he's with the coach's show. He's good. He's one of us. He can stay.
That is great.
I'm just trying to find somebody to vouch for me. And, the only person that I see that would recognize me enough to be able to vouch for me is Coach Swinney, and he jumps in and says, yeah, he's one of us. So I was like, thank you, Coach. I appreciate that. And then we did our live shots there. We lived happily ever after. So I thought that was a funny story.
Why in the world would a camera crew be on the beach shooting a stand-up for craps and giggles? Gosh, that's frustrating. Just the security guy taking himself way too seriously.
Exactly. Well, I guess at its core, he was protecting the players, because they were still out there or whatever. But, we were actually far enough away that they were in the background. We weren't, in the middle of getting ready to get hit by a volleyball or anything. But I thought he was a little bit overbearing too. But, what am I to do? I'm standing on his property. So, but it all worked out.
What is it? It's no surprise to hear that Dabo doesn't take his frustration out on the people around him, during the coach's show or whenever after a bad moment on the football field. But what has it been like watching him and being around him through these have been some devastating, deflating moments, a pretty high frequency of them this year, moments that are kind of unexplainable in his mind, and just obviously a lot more trying events in the last several years than the time frame you referenced from 15 to 20 when everything seemed like, it was easy and winning seemed like their birthright. Have you been able to get any kind of particular insight from that window or has it just been pretty much what you see everywhere else from him is what you see behind the scenes, even during some of those more difficult moments?
You see some frustration at times, but I think it makes it for him, and this is just me from the outside observing, I think the fact that he's put down the resume that he's put down with a couple of national championships and 6 straight trips to the college football playoff, that there's no, for many years when you and I first got here early on, and, I think I got here in 2002. I think you got here about the same time. You have a year like this and people really start coming and saying, is it time to move on? Is it time to find somebody else? Is it time to, the game has passed the by. He's got enough on his resume that I think he realizes that, I'm above that. Certainly above that, unless it happens, 3 or 4 years in a row. I mean, how long is the leash? It's a lot longer for him than it is your average coach, and it certainly should be. So I think that that's part of it, and I just think that he truly believes that what he's doing is right. What he's doing is tried and true. It's proven to work. But you take away a Brent Venables from a coaching staff, and you take away a Jeff Scott from a coaching staff, and you take away a Tony Elliott from a coaching staff, and you do it all in a real short period of time. You don't think that's going to affect winning on the field? Come on. I mean, no disrespect to Wes, no disrespect to, Garrett Riley or any of the other people. You've dealt with Coach Venables, you've dealt with Coach Scott and Coach Elliott. Like, those guys, by the time they left this program, were elite. They were unbelievably talented at what they did. You don't think that when you lose those kind of people that it's going to affect winning? And you put that on top of maybe every once in a while the 5-star that you get doesn't play like a 5-star. During that 15 to 20 window, they hit on just about all of them. Those 5-stars ended up playing like 5-stars, and you're not going to have, just ask Alabama right now, you're not going to have Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence in the span of 7 years, both of them, playing like they play, and then just say, oh, DJ's the next 5-star. DJ's going to do the exact same thing. We thought that, but that didn't happen. So, I think with any program, you're going to have, some of those peaks and valleys, but I think he just truly believes in his system, in his way. And I was very surprised last year when he made the change in offensive coordinator. It showed me something about Coach Swinney that I wasn't sure was in there. Can he take someone that's on his staff that's one of his guys, it's a Clemson guy, and move on from them? Because when you hire all your friends and you hire people that it's easy to hire them. It's hard to say goodbye to those people. Yeah. And I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do that. I don't know what your perspective is on that, but I was a little surprised by it because, it's easy to say C.J. Spiller's our running backs coach. I love C.J. Spiller. C.J. Spiller's one of the most impactful people in the history of the program. Like, this guy's unbelievable. What happens if 3, 4, 5 years from now it's time to reevaluate? That's where it gets tough when you hire these people that and that are your friends or that you coached. So that and we're kind of maybe in that window right now with some staff members, because we've heard that there's going to be there's going to be some changes, and you can do the math on if there's changes. There's going to be guys that are Clemson guys. There's going to be guys that are his friends that he's got to make tough decisions on, and that's where. I know Tyler from Spartanburg called out how much money he makes and all this stuff. that's where he gets paid all that money to make those kinds of decisions, because those are the tough decisions. And I wouldn't want to be in his situation in that at the end of this year when he's going to make a couple of tough calls.
Yeah, to answer your question, I at the end of last year, I did not think I was skeptical that he would make a change. And so, yes, I think that was a pretty large statement about where his priorities are, in that, like you said, it makes for a great story, a feel-good thing to have to hire your former players and all that, or icons, Clemson icons in Brandon Streeter's case. But the fact that he made that decision after just 1 year of Streeter as OC, it tells you that ultimately, Dabo's culture is about love and family and all that stuff. But in his mind, that message that came from that, and that I think still applies today, is it's a big boy business, and this is about production, and he still has to make decisions that are in the best interest of the program. And so ultimately, I think he's still he's a cutthroat competitor, and so I think that's where things sort of stand now as we go back to last week, which had to be one of the toughest weeks inside that building in the history of Dabo Swinney's tenure, because it was nuclear from everything we've heard, not just toward the coaches, but to the players, basically saying, y'all got 24 days to prove that y'all deserve your jobs or your spots. And so that's different. That's not what you're normally, what you're accustomed to hearing from him. So it should be a really interesting postseason.
I mean, so many things have changed too, with how prevalent, and you've heard this, how prevalent the transfer portal is, how NIL has come in and changed the way recruiting takes place. Like, from when he was doing this from 15 to 20, the formula's changed. It's a different game now. I mean, you can't use the formula that you used back then to have the success right now. And I think he's learning that more slowly than most. He's a little stubborn in the way that he believes in his system and his routines and all that stuff. But the reality is, if you truly don't use the portal and don't embrace the parts of NIL that are out there, you're not going to get the players that you need to win. I mean, this year's team is void of that playmaker on the outside. There's no T. Higgins or Justin Ross or DeAndre Hopkins or Sammy Watkins or Mike Williams, there's not that guy on this team. So, where do you find that guy? You've got to find, you'd love for it to be Bo Collins. He thought it might have been Joseph Ngata. That didn't happen. And, Frank Ladson, and, they've missed on a couple guys over the years that, it seems easy when every year you've got, 2 or 3 wide receivers like they've had. My goodness, you look at that window, from 15 to 20, some of those receivers that he had, my goodness gracious, they'd love to have any one of those. And I think that's part of it. You just don't see the explosiveness that they used to have. And he sees that too. He knows that. And it's a little tricky when your quarterback play isn't, when DJ's a 5-star, but he's not Trevor. When, Klubnik's a 5-star, but he's not Trevor or Deshaun. It's like all that stuff I think people took for granted. And I know I did when it was happening, and every guy that was supposed to produced. I mean, you remember what that was like. It was like, wow, it was just a, insert player, make big play. Insert player, make big play. It's not that easy. I mean, I don't think Dabo's figured out something that nobody in the history of college football's, been able to master. You're going to have some ups and downs.
Well, you mentioned Alabama and some of the lessons they are also learning right now in the, the last 2 years, or last year mainly, 2022, their offensive line wasn't very good that year, and they were in a lot of close games. I forgot how many games they won. I guess 10, 11. Anyway, Bryce Young was Superman. He bailed them out of so many situations to where if you don't have him, they might have finished 8-4 last year, and been going through a lot of some of the similar turmoil or sort of reality checks I think that Clemson folks have been going through. So it's having an elite presence at quarterback and receiver certainly helps.
And I mean, Travis Etienne, I don't know that people appreciated how unbelievably talented that guy was. I mean, look at him now. I mean, and he kind of burst onto the scene maybe a little bit. People were a little surprised at how good he was. And here comes Will Shipley. He's a 5-star, and he's just different. He's not Travis Etienne. He's supposed to be the fastest guy on the team, but for some reason that speed doesn't translate to game day the way we thought it was going to translate. A very likable kid. Seems like a great guy. And he's facing some adversity, and it's interesting. I don't. You said you didn't go into the locker room on a normal basis, but last week we were talking with Xavier Thomas, and he's like, "Yeah, it was a tough week. Like everybody was feeling the brunt of it, down to the guy that's cutting the grass, and they know that they got to perform. And what happens? And I don't know the answer to this, but what happens with this NIL stuff? Somebody's paying these guys X amount of dollars." And they're expecting X amount of performance. I mean, Dr. Pepper last year with DJ. Do you remember that in the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
And that was their guy. And about 3 weeks into the season, Dr. Pepper stopped running those commercials.
Yes.
It's
21.
Like,
that was 21.
2 years ago. Sorry, 2 years ago. Yeah. 2 years ago. So it's like, it's a slippery slope, man. You're going to have people that are putting money into these guys. They're not a sure thing. NFL players aren't a sure thing. So you come back a tier, you think it's a sure thing at the college level? No way. So, you got guys that are getting paid now significant amounts of money, and they're not performing. And, okay, now they're not even starting, and they've got to deal with so-and-so company, and now they're not even seeing the field. It's just, man, I wouldn't want to be a part of that. I wouldn't want to be a coach that has to deal with that stuff.
Also, as we talk about how Dabo views roster management, and his commitment to players, you wonder, because for the longest time, his model has been built on, all right, when I make an offer, a scholarship offer, that is a marriage. It's till graduation do we part, right? So
correct.
My obligation to you is through the whole person, not just the football player. So if you don't perform, if you don't meet expectations, then that's on us. That's on the coaches. We messed that up, but we still honor that sort of contract through the duration of your eligibility to help you to help you graduate and become better as a man and all that stuff. But I do wonder, and this is not based on any information. This is just totally speculative. But maybe he recalibrates his side of the contract or agreement if, in general, the players' side of it has changed in recent years as we've gotten into NIL, as we've gotten into, if I'm not playing, I might leave. Or, I'm going to opt out of this bowl game since it's not the playoff.
Yeah.
Or, I hurt my toe and I probably could play, but I'm probably just going to hang it up for the rest of the year. That type of thing. And not to say that Clemson has a bunch of those guys, but I do think
they seem to have way fewer than most other programs.
Correct. But I do think it's worth, talking about, like as Dabo lays down the law last week with not just his coaches but his players, basically saying some of y'all ain't going to be around here next year. It's like that's...
Well, I mean, I think to some degree, maybe you don't hear about it as much, but there's probably been players over the years that have been encouraged to look elsewhere.
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to make it a big media thing. I'm not going to put it out there so everybody knows. But you're third on the depth chart, fifth on the depth chart, eighth on the depth chart. If you want to play, it might be in your best interest to go somewhere else and see if you can find some playing time. Say it in a positive way. That's going to happen. But for the guys that are talented, that are higher up on the depth chart, look at the list of guys that have left Clemson, going to transfer and playing somewhere else. There hasn't been a lot. There haven't been very many that have left Clemson and gone to have success elsewhere. So Dabo knows that. He uses that. He sees that. It's like, you want to show the list of guys that have left here thinking that they were going to find greener pastures elsewhere? I've got that list. Here's the last 25 guys that have transferred. How many of those guys are playing on Sundays right now? Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Nope, 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 all the way down the list. So he's got that, saying, you may think it's greener pastures, but the truth is maybe it's on you to get better. Maybe it's on us to get you better. Maybe we can figure this out, whereas there's certainly been the list of guys that have left Ohio State that have gone to other programs and had success is a little longer.
Upstate foodies, want to take a moment to talk to you about our favorite taco spot, Willie Taco. 5 locations across the upstate. This award-winning team has been serving up fresh taco fusion for a solid decade now. The chefs at Willie Taco utilize the freshest, most creative, and sometimes unexpected ingredients in their kitchens. Come see why Southern Living, Garden and Gun, and Food and Wine Magazine are raving about Willie Taco and their signature offerings, such as their Southern Tide, crispy avocado, Nashville hot chicken tacos, literally flavors you will not find anywhere else, folks. And don't forget about the cocktails. Super fresh margaritas, ice cold cerveza, and over 80 tequilas served up daily from behind the bar. So don't wait, folks. Your Willie Taco Familia is ready to serve you up their twist on funky, fresh fusion. It's the Willie way. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith & Archenhold. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced, professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Solero Communications, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Solero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Solero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Solero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Solero at solerocommerce.com. That's CELERO commerce.com. Todd, some folks listening might not really have a good idea of sort of, okay, he works for WSPA, but he also does the Clemson Coaches Show. Let's talk about that arrangement. I guess is the best way to put it basically like WSPA is the contracted partner with Clemson to produce the Coaches Show, and is that pretty much what it is?
It is, yeah. I mean, about 7 years ago, they reached an agreement. Our corporate people, not way beyond me or Pete or my news director or my general manager, decided that was financially something they wanted to commit to. So they made a financial commitment to be the carrier of the Coaches Show. And part of that was we were able to distribute it to other Nexstar affiliates. So our Coaches Show that we put together, that it's just people, at Channel 7 put together. It airs for our Nexstar station in Myrtle Beach. It airs at our Nexstar station in Charleston. It airs on our Nexstar station in Augusta. I think it airs in Charlotte. That wasn't initially the case, but I think it does now. We have an agreement. It airs in Columbia on a non-Nexstar station. And so we were able to, it's not just a Channel 7 gain for Nexstar. They see it as almost like a Southeast, because we own a bunch of, I think we own over 100 TV stations. So the ones that would have interest in Clemson, we air it. And it airs for us, interestingly, Monday nights at 7:30 on Channel 7. Other stations air it at different times. So we have to have the Coaches Show done and ready to go with closed captioning and the whole process, I think by 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. So you do the math on an 8 p.m. kick game. You're going to have the whole show done and sent away, by, I think Pete's leaving no later than 4-ish on a Sunday morning, even if it's a night game. So that is part of that process, that it airs in a bunch of different places. I think at first place it airs maybe at 10 or 11 in Columbia in the morning on Saturdays. We're the only ones that air on Monday. And every once in a while, we'll have to make an adjustment before the Monday show because we said something about this player and this player is now out for the year, or, but most of the time it just airs the way it is. But yeah, it's an agreement. And it's I think it's kind of evolved over time as to exactly how it works. But on the very front end of it, each year, we get Dabo one-on-one for, I think it's about an hour and a half or 2 hours is what it ends up being. And Pete sits down with him, and we knock out 12 feature stories. And each year it's based on something different. I think they've done, sit down, Dabo. All right, let's talk about your coaches. Start with Jeff Scott. Okay, now let's go to C.J. Spiller. Okay, now let's go to Tyler Grisham. And each one is its own feature story during the year. We do it in August, but the one on, Nick Eason may not run until November. So that's part of the agreement. We get an exclusive sit-down interview with him on the front end one time for a couple hours. So you got to, Pete's got to be prepared on that day because we can't go back and say, oh, we forgot to ask you about. Yeah. So he's got to be prepared. And I think we looked back at various key points in the championship years. He did one year. Maybe he did Dabo's first year. Anyway, he comes up with a theme each year and asks them about that. And the other place that we get an exclusive is we get one player a week for our player feature. And John Burton's the one who does that, where he'll sit down and talk with whoever the player is. A lot of times it's somebody that's coming to the media gathering on Tuesday. So every once in a while it's a Monday. And it's somebody that, when they get done talking with the media in the new room that they have, they'll go and meet with John in a different room, and then they'll put that into a feature story on, Will Putnam or Jeremiah Trotter or whoever it is. So those are the two places that we get, and we get Dabo at the end of the game. And that's really it. I think sometimes people think that, there's an agreement where we get, breaking news kind of things, or they tell us things that they don't tell other people. And that's not it at all. That's not part of the arrangement at all. It's just, the couple little places that, basically are paid for to a degree. And it's not necessarily exactly like that, but that way the Coaches Show offers some exclusive content that you don't get, that everybody doesn't get access to. Now, it does not include, we get to go out to practice differently than you do. We get to go get shots. Like you watch the Georgia Coaches Show, it's put together by people that work at Georgia, and they have like 8-10 guys out on the practice field, putting microphones on Kirby Smart, putting microphones on, other coaches, and getting all this. It's like, that is not our arrangement does not include that, which, I don't work for Clemson. I'm basically kind of, freelanced in there, I guess would be a better. It's not really like that, but I'm not inside their umbrella when it comes to access.
So 7 years ago, when the arrangement was first announced or reached, was the reaction from you and Pete like, oh man, this is going to be great? Or was it, oh, this is going to be a lot more work? Like what? I'm just curious what the.
I think it was Pete's, you've talked to Pete before. His mentality is tell him what the task is and he'll make it happen. Nobody works harder than that guy. Like you can just keep piling stuff on him and he keeps, saying, okay, we'll make it work. Okay, we'll make it work. Okay, we'll make it work. It really just kind of morphed into, all right, now how are we going to make this work? Let's figure this out. And, the first year, the way we did it was a little differently than the second year. That was a little differently than the third year. And now we've got it down pretty good. Like we all know our roles, and like John does a lot of the graphics that goes into the show. And I do, my main thing is that Saturday. My Saturday is really, really packed with stuff. And then Pete kind of puts it together throughout the week. He'll sit back there and put parts of it together. And then on Saturday kind of makes it into the final product and make sure it times out the way it's supposed to time out, and make sure that, all the segments are the way they're supposed to be. And, sometimes there's a little, trickiness, and maybe the highlights of a game goes overtime. The highlights are a little longer than you thought. So you got to take that out of somewhere else and that kind of stuff. But, I think we've got it down to a pretty good science now. I really do. I think it's a pretty good team effort, especially when you watch it and you realize that there's probably not as many hands on it as you think there are. And at Georgia, there's probably 30 people involved in it. For us, that number may be 3 or 4. It's not a lot of people. It's, the ones that do it do a lot of heavy lifting. But we all kind of know what our roles are in the process. And at this point, we've got it down where I mean, I don't know how we could be more efficient. If they said you got to be more efficient, somewhere along the way, I'm not sure where that would be. But
so you said for some of the road games, I guess the lengthy trips, you'll fly with the team. You already said that you've almost gotten left as they're hopping on the buses, and you said that Pete doesn't finish until around 4 a.m.
for the night for an 8 o'clock
for an 8 o'clock game. All right, so can you put us in your shoes after the recent Miami game? It's overtime game. And so you're on the team plane, like when you finish up shooting or whatever for the coaches show, your work's only beginning. So on the plane, you're sitting there editing like the whole way back?
No, not on the plane. On the bus for sure.
Okay.
I know when we were at Notre Dame last year, I hit send on my last file as I was standing up to get off the bus and into the TSA line. Because once you're on the plane, I can't send stuff from 30,000 feet or whatever it is. So I've got to have it done by then. On the bus a lot of times in Miami, we were John was editing his stuff and I was editing my stuff, and Pete was back at the station, doing his stuff, and it was kind of a all hands on deck. And when the bus stopped and we got off, I looked at John and I said, "John, are you done?" He's like, "Finished about 30 seconds ago."
Wow.
Like, I finished about 3 minutes ago. And the Miami trip was a little different. There were two planes, so we were on more of a staff plane. But in the first 4 years, we were on the same plane as the players. I remember the first couple of years, one year I was sitting between John Simpson and another offensive lineman, and I squeezed in the middle, and I'm like, my goodness gracious, I knew they were big. But, you're sitting in these planes sandwiched between these two guys. And then I think years 3 and 4, they moved us separate from the players, which was probably the way to go. We didn't need to be sitting next to the players after a game. It's really cool. My favorite part of the whole process is the efficiency with which it operates. When we kind of could take you inside a little bit, we leave from Greenville and we don't have to go through the regular line. We go out on the tarmac and they check us and we get, scanned and all that stuff. And then we get on the plane and we fly. Let's say we're going to Syracuse, and we land in Syracuse and we get a police escort to the hotel. Mm-hmm. So we don't stop at stoplights. We don't stop along, to merge onto the interstate. Police officers get us there as quickly as we can get there. And then on game day, same thing. The bus gets a police escort there. But when the game's over, you get a police escort to the airport, and they start scanning people, and you're on the plane probably 2 hours after the game's over. You're on the plane, and you're back home by, depending on how long the flight is. I mean, in Miami, I think I was home by 5. Mm-hmm. I think we're back home. So it was just, you're kind of, it's a long day. I mean, the Saturday is really long, but it is nice to be home Sunday morning, 4 o'clock, 4:30 or whatever it is. And like I said, when we go to Duke, or to Duke on Monday this year, we drove there and drove back. That was a long day because, we didn't spend the night. We just, but I'm sitting there with John and he's working on the way back, and then he gets done with what he needs to get done. Then I'm like, all right, you drive down, then I'll get done. Because whatever I shoot, I always file about 20 minutes, 25 minutes worth of video for us, for Channel 7, or for the coaches show, to be honest with you. That way we have file video of anybody that did anything in the game, even stuff that doesn't air on the coaches show. We have a file of video that I spend 2 hours doing every Sunday. And then I write down every player that's on that list. So, we need a shot of an offensive lineman. Well, during a game, I'm not going to get many shots of the offensive line. But in pregame or, various different points, I'll have shots of every single offensive lineman. So if this guy's hurt, or if we end up doing a feature on Colin Sadler, or if we end up doing a feature on whoever it is, we have video of all these guys. And we have access to it because of the file that's done Sunday, either when we're driving back or flying back. Or that's usually the window when I'll try to knock that out, because I try not to have a lot of time where I'm just kind of sitting there doing nothing. But it's evolved over time, but I think we've got it down to where we all kind of know what we're doing, and we all respect what we're doing and that kind of thing. And I can't use access. Like if I'm on the plane and I notice so and so was hurt,
yep.
I can't report that. Like that's a window where I'm not allowed to use that access to say, well, I noticed on the plane so and so was in an
sources, according to my sources,
so, because it'd be like, wonder where you. So yeah, so I've got to know when and where that. And now, if I'm in a place when they're getting off the bus and walking into the stadium, and I see you or I see, Paul or I see other people getting shots and video, then that's fair access. Then I can, whatever my eyes see at that point, everybody else can see too. So, it's kind of a little bit tricky in that sense that, you got to know where you are and what's to be seen and what's not to be seen. Not that there's that many situations like that. There really isn't. I mean, there really aren't that many times where that comes into play at all.
When something crazy happens, like, you meant like the Tyler from Spartanburg thing, and as a newscast, like, how do you handle that? Do you say Dabo Swinney fired back at a caller named Tyler from Spartan? I mean, I'm just curious how you would how y'all tackled that.
I've always felt like if you just state what happened and leave out opinion, you're going to be fine. I've never, for my role, for what I do, opinion is not a part of it. It's just not. I don't leave that. I don't want to go down that path. I don't even. A lot of times on the newscast, sometimes people are like, well, who do you think's going to win the game? And it's like, well, that's even tricky because then you're going to get people who are going to get mad at you for this, that, and the other. So it's like very, very few times do I even say, I think Clemson's going to win this game by 3 touchdowns, because I just feel like my role is to just report what's there, what's happening. And I think that's part of the broadcaster in me, and not the social media person, because you go on social media and everybody's got an opinion. Yep. And you too. I mean, you go on there from time to time and offer opinion. That's what you're supposed to do. I think for us, it's just easier to, more often than not. And if you watch Pete doesn't put opinion on there. Like you could watch him every sportscast for the next 6 months. You might not see 2 times where he offers an opinion on there. So that's how I avoid. Tyler from Spartanburg said this, and you might be surprised how Dabo responded. Mm-hmm. Take a listen. Mm-hmm. That kind of style of doing it.
Do you do prep games regularly, Friday nights?
Absolutely, 100%. That's honestly, I really enjoy it. That's what I spend most of my week doing. I'll go out on a Monday. We'll figure out what our game of the week is going to be. And I'll go out to, like, for example, this week it's Broome against Clinton. Last week it was Burns against Dorman. And I'll go to both sites, and I will talk to coach and a key player from each, and then I'll put together 3 stories that will run on Friday nights previewing that game. And usually one of them is going to be a feature story on whoever the best player in the game is. And because high school kids don't get not everybody knows that the running back at Burns is a freshman who's also an elite soccer player who travels around the country playing soccer. Not everybody knows that, the best player on Broome is a sophomore who's already got 10 Division I offers and, is, driven by, wanting to be great, and that's what the story's going to be this week. And, and talking to the high school kids and giving them some attention. And I always get in that Friday night. I'll stay at that game and I'll do, 5 or 6 different content pieces from that game, a game recap, a VO of the game for Pete, and an interview with the coach. And usually there's a play of the night that comes from that game and that kind of stuff. So that's the other reason why the games where Clemson plays within a driving distance, within, the North Carolinas, Georgias, probably maybe even Virginias, that we would just cover Friday night football and then drive the morning of the game to go cover the game. So he doesn't want to lose, because if John and I both go to Syracuse that Friday night, he loses both of us. So John will shoot 2 or 3 games on a Friday night. I'll shoot 1, and he'll end up not having those us as resources to go gather that stuff. So he really wants us to be there as many Friday nights as possible. I think this year I've covered a game every Friday night except for 2. Miami, we had to go with the team, and Syracuse, I think we went with the team. So yeah, I do a lot of prep stuff.
I assume you're planning on covering the state cross country championships tomorrow morning in Newberry, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, over the years, I've covered everything. My gosh, I've covered, some track and field. I've covered softball, baseball, soccer, girls soccer, unique things. I worked in Knoxville for a couple of years, and we would do like very creative, unique challenges that our sports. Back then, I was mainly a photographer. Now I wear all the different hats, but we would go and do stories on somebody that was great at archery, we did catfish grabbing one time. I did just so many different unique stories over the years that you'd be hard pressed to come up with something that I haven't had a camera at and covered and told their story of.
Well, the cross country championships are a big story to me. I'm biased. There are two Williams sisters running for Daniel High School.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
Very nice. Maybe we could do something on your band too.
Yeah. What is it like? I think when you're doing interviews, particularly with high school kids, I would think it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy in general interviewing, a lot of high school kids because they've never experienced it. But when you turn that camera on, like I know if you put a camera in my face, I'm middle-aged, I'd probably get a little nervous. So how do you maybe try to make that easier on people, on kids? Like, hey, is this okay? We're just going to ask you a couple of questions. I mean, I'm sure you can identify with that on sort of the intimidation factor that comes with that.
I mean, you're as good an interviewer as there is. So there's just things you learn over the years. And one thing I prefer, if it's not overly windy, I'll put the little microphone that you just clip on them. It's called a lavalier microphone. It's the one, that you just kind of put on your lapel or put on your, not the big giant stick microphone that you stick in their face and they immediately take a half a step backward because they're, scared of it.
Yep.
That's one way to kind of make them feel more comfortable. Usually before we even turn the camera on, there's a 45 second to a minute chat to make them feel comfortable. Hey, we're just going to talk about football stuff. Not going to ask you anything about your physics class or your math class, or, we're just talking about stuff that you're comfortable with. You get all levels. I've done some high school interviews this year with kids that I was blown away. I was like, man, you are really good at this. And, there was a kid at JL Man that I did an interview with. And I got done. I was like, this is the best interview I've done all year. Like, you were great. And then I've done a couple where the kid was not comfortable, where he was a little awkward and didn't like doing it as much. And, you just try to, sometimes you ask a question and you don't get the answer that you want, but you realize that that's a focal point of your story. So you've got to, maybe wait a couple more questions and then re-ask the question a little bit differently and hope that you get a little bit better answer. And if after 2 or 3 attempts at that, then maybe you have to go to the coach and say, get the coach's spin on that angle because the player just didn't give you exactly what you wanted. And the coaches, they've done it enough. Just about all of them are really comfortable on camera. But you're right. You talk to 15 and 16-year-old kids, and they're not all, comfortable on camera. But like I said, I try to just be as relatable with them as I can, share stories that, I did a story on a couple Burns kids last year. I covered their dad. That tells you how old I am for one thing. But so I just kind of related that, when I remember covering your dad when he was here and, and just kind of, I enjoy that. I really do enjoy trying to come up with interesting angles to 15, 16-year-old kids because, you put that out on social media and a lot of times it's the first time that people get introduced to these kids and see them. And, it kind of is a neat way. Like, and just about more often than not, you get done with the interview, they'll want to know when it's going to run. When can they see it? Whereas you deal with Clemson kids or coaches or, even when you get to the professional level, they don't care. They don't care when the story is going to run. They've done 20 interviews in the last month. But high school kids and their moms and their dads, they're fascinated about being on television. They really think it's cool because people are going to see them and see their story. And, and I'll get a lot of times people will, tell me after the fact. One of the cool stories, and this is a kid that his name has probably come up in your circles of, you and Paul with the recruiting and all that stuff. But there's a quarterback at West Side High School. His name's Cutter Woods. He's really good. He's got a dozen Division I offers. He's a junior quarterback, and he's got 3 ACC offers, I think. But he's a really talented kid. So I talked to the coach first, and I've known the coach for 20 years. And I said, just tell me something about Cutter that's different. I know on Friday nights I've seen him play. He's an elite player, but is there anything that makes him stand out? He goes, absolutely. He goes, this kid is one of a kind. He's such an amazing leader. He said, here's an example. Every Sunday morning, he goes out and he rents a van, and 14, 15-seat van, goes and picks up some of his teammates and takes them to church and brings them back, and does it every Sunday. He goes and rents a van and goes and picks up his teammates and takes them. And so I asked him about that. He goes, yeah, it's really kind of taken off. I've actually got to make 2 trips now because so many kids want to go. I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable. I've never heard of that. A kid I said, when I was 15 years old, I wasn't doing things or 6, I guess he's 16. I wasn't doing things like that. And it's neat when you find an interesting angle. And we have interns all the time that come in and they want to know stories about different things. And this is people that do what we do for a living. There's a reason that you're good at it and experience matters in this stuff. We were interviewing a kid one time when I was in Bristol. This was 23 years ago, probably. And we used to do a player of the week every week, and I'd do it one week, and the other guy would do it one week, and I'd do it one week, and we'd rotate. And we were out, and it's so formulaic in a lot of ways. So-and-so threw for 450 yards and 6 touchdowns. And and you just kind of throw the numbers out there because that's why he's the player of the week, because he had a great game and all that stuff. And we were interviewing the coach, and he said, this kid's he's an amazing kid. I mean, he to see what he is able to do on the football field, the fact that he can only see out of one eye, but he's able to process all the information, and he's able to get the ball to his teammates, and he's able to just lead our team down the field. And we get done with the interview, and the guy that was doing the story, he's like, all right, coach, thanks, I appreciate that. And I said, did you catch the part where he's blind in one eye?
Yes.
He said, oh, no. Did he say that? I said, yeah, he's blind in one eye and he's playing quarterback. That now is our story. Our story is not he threw for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. And sometimes, and you probably have been guilty of this, I know I've been guilty of this, when you're interviewing people, you're so caught up on what your next question's going to be that maybe you're not listening to their answer as well as you should be. But a lot of times you're going to get a different story than what you thought you were going to get when you started. And I was like, we've got to re-interview the player. We've got to go back, and now our story has changed. He's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. This could be an Emmy Award-winning story if it's done right. Let's figure this out. And same thing, when I do high school interviews, when the coach said that the kid goes out and picks up people at church, when, a kid tells me that, he's just kind of dropping something in there, and he's like, yeah, I didn't start playing football till, I was in 8th grade. And it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. You know how it is. You're always trying to find something that makes your story interesting. And my favorite thing to do with my job is tell stories about people. Mm-hmm. Tell stories about people, not stats and numbers, because I think people get tired of that. And I'm not, a lot of my stories include stats and numbers. I'm not saying that that's not a way to go too, but if you can find ways to tell stories about people and make them relatable, I think that's the ultimate goal. And the stories, that you do on your podcast, when you get to the human aspect, I loved the Brent Venables interview you did.
Oh, thank you.
Not because he was telling me about his defensive philosophies and all that stuff. But when he got into the personal stuff about his family and how he got to where he is, and I was like hooked. Like I was on the treadmill running, and like the next thing I know, I'm running 45 minutes. I'm like, holy cow, this is great because it's a story about a person and his background. And you think, oh, he makes $2 million a year. He's had it easy. My gosh, that guy has not had it easy. Dabo's story has not been easy. You detail that in your books and all that stuff. And it's like when you can break it down and get underneath the umbrella of stats and numbers and get to the people, I think that's the part that I like the best of anything that I do.
Tell me how much you enjoyed going and watching, covering Jeff Scott coach youth soccer a couple months ago.
That is my favorite story of the entire year. I mean, it's one of my top 5 or 6 stories that I've ever done. It's just because you're seeing somebody that you've known for 15 years, maybe 20 years. I mean, I was covering him when he was a player. And you're seeing him in a totally different, uncomfortable light. For those that don't know, he was coaching his son's 3- and 4-year-old soccer team. And he is so out of his element. Yes, he's one of the greatest coaches that Clemson's had come through there. He's so detail-oriented. He's so calculated in everything that he does. He brings notes with him to press conferences. He makes sure he points out every little detail. And then you get a 3-year-old that does whatever the heck he wants to do and runs wherever he wants to run. And his son, Hunter, was as guilty of it as anybody. Hunter, we're playing over here, buddy. Stop picking flowers. Stop talking to the girls. Over here. Go kick the ball. No, kick the ball the other way. We want to go to that goal, not that goal. And just, we put a microphone on him, and he was good at it. He understood the microphone was on him, and he was accommodating, and just to see him struggle in a way to communicate with 3- and 4-year-olds. I mean, my wife taught kindergarten for a while. I've heard these stories over the years. And, to sit there and see him, have humor with it. And for me, I coached my sons. I was an assistant coach on his little league baseball teams, and I helped him. I coached his flag football teams. And, you sit there and you tell the kids to do this, and then they go do something totally different. It's like you were supposed to go 10 yards and go out, and you kept on running, and just when we were all done, and I left this out of the story that I put on TV, but his son was just he's 3 years old. I mean, he's 3 years old at the end of the day. He's going to do what he wants to do. But he gets done, and he goes up to his dad, and he says, "Dad, can I get some popcorn? Can I have some popcorn?" He's like, "Yes, Hunter, you can have some popcorn and a drink." And he goes, "Not that you did anything to deserve either one." You could tell he was just frustrated and exhausted that, he's so good at getting his receivers to run routes exactly the way they're supposed to. And it gets to 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids, and they're doing whatever the heck they want to do. And hopefully that came across in the telling of the story. I put a version out on for the news that I normally would do. And I think I was having a conversation with you, and you said you need to put a raw, kind of a full version out. And I credit you for that, because I was like, oh, I'm going to put a deep cuts version on the website as well, just so, because I had my stories on TV have to be between 1:15 and 1:45 probably. That's usually our window. So imagine telling a story. You've got unlimited space on the internet to tell an unbelievably detailed story. Most of mine aren't like that, but I said, I'm going to take all these clips of all these things that I have from him, and I think it ended up being almost 5 minutes long with just all the different various clips that went on there. So yeah, that was fun. That was a really, really fun story to tell and put together.
The funniest snippet to me was when he threw the ball from the end line to sort of midfield, and it bounces off of one kid's head and then rolls directly into the goal on the other side.
They had not scored a goal the whole game, and I don't think they'd had a shot on goal in the whole game. And Jeff realizes that the other team probably had a few more. keep in mind, none of these are great 3- and 4-year-old soccer players that like dominate. But the other team had a couple kids that were able to move the ball and get down in the direction of the goal. I think they had scored a couple goals. So he's kind of the middle guy on the field, like, coaching from the field. And he's trying to, whenever he throws the ball, trying to steer it a little bit in the direction of his team, trying to help his team get going in the right direction. And he threw the ball from one end of the field, hit his player on top of his head at midfield, ball rolled off his head and into the goal. He couldn't have done that again. And I said, Coach, I'm going to give you a 500 throws. See if you can repeat that. There's no way he could repeat it. It hits the kid's head, rolls into the goal. He goes, "You're the first person to ever have a header goal in the history of 3- and 4-year-old soccer," because 3- and 4-year-olds can't kick the ball up into the air. So he's probably true. Probably telling the truth. And it was so fascinating. And he comes over to me. He's like, "Did you get that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was the highlight of the whole thing." How you threw it? Just threw it off his head. Yeah, it was. There were just so many different little things along the way that you can relate if you've ever. You've had kids and they were small at one point. You can relate to the struggles, and I enjoyed seeing him. First of all, spend time with his kid in that role, because he probably during football season when he was a coach was working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, and I think you got that sense that don't feel sorry for me because I'm not coaching right now. I'm, enjoying this time with my kid, with my family. And, sometimes that's, and he said that it's a nice reset. It's a nice catch your breath, kind of put it all in perspective kind of thing that, if you told me I had a chance to do that when my kids were 3 and 4, I probably would say I'd absolutely love it.
Todd, this has been awesome, man. I cannot thank you enough for your time.
No problem. I look forward to doing it. And I just now looked, and we've been doing it for an hour and 20 minutes. So that's that's how you know it's a good conversation. I haven't even paid attention. I enjoy it too, Larry.
Hey,
I really appreciate what you do. You do a great job, and you are certainly as respected as there is on the beat. And my goal in doing what we do is to kind of, earn the respect of the colleagues that I work alongside and the people that I work alongside. And I certainly respect everything that you do.
The feeling is mutual. I just want to say you could have been on a treadmill for the last hour and 20 minutes.
I've got to run some errands. I probably should have been on the treadmill. I'm off today, so I've got to get a couple things done. My wife gave me a list of a couple things I got to go knock out. So I'll do get that done, but I appreciate the conversation.
Okay, awesome stuff on a lot of different levels. Really, really, really cool. Sort of going behind the curtain of Todd's job, or I guess jobs, with both the TV station and the production of the Coaches Show. Appreciate the support of our sponsors for continuing to help make this happen. And, of course, thanks to every single one of you for your interest in listening. Really appreciate it. Cheers.